Hey there, how's it going?
Good. I'm just driving over to a property I have to look at before I go to that showing, and I'm going to set up there. I'll be there in like 5 minutes.
Okay, you're good.
Mhm. Is Ryan doing good?
I don't know. I'm so aggravated with Craig right now. I can't call him or I'm not going to be nice.
Really? I felt like that the other day when he snapped at me.
Yeah, he snapped at you.
Yeah.
He can be a little temperamental for sure. Um, the issue is I don't think he's been firm. I don't think he's been firm with his sellers on what needs to be done. So if they don't do it, that's on them. And it's on him to fix it. So that's why I text him and you today, just because I wanted you to see what I was sending him, and because I know you and him and you. Um, I anticipate he and I will have a conversation about it, but there's not much to discuss. I mean, I was intentionally texting him so I would have receipts too. Like I like Craig. Craig's a great guy, but I don't think he's been fully communicating to his sellers, or his sellers are just like out to lunch and are not understanding what we need. Um,
I think by the information that he's given me, his sellers are in Bradenton and they're
mhm.
too old to travel or to do anything themselves. He said that
They
they
won't hire
hired
anybody.
he said that they hired somebody to do all that work and he was present. And I thought it was odd that he knew exactly what was done if he was present. And
Mhm.
then when I told him what was wrong with the shower and we sent him videos, um, he and I had a conversation on the phone and I was very clear to him. I said, look, I said, I don't care if you pull the installation out and throw it away. My buyer will replace it when he gets here because he's willing to pay half. Because Ryan's like, I'll pay half. So I was like, well, I'll have them clean it out, shop vac it out, this and that.
Mhm.
I said, and then, you can just install your own installation before the inspection. Like, we'll just make it that simple. Like, my house, my Lake Ned house, Matt had to let me do some things through their realtor because they didn't want to do it so that it would even close.
Yeah, and the fact that
So,
Ryan has been pretty willing. I think Craig had the bad taste in his mouth about the mold. He's just aggravated that they tested for it, but they did, and he knows it has to be dealt with. But I made it what I thought was very clear of the debris from the mice in the attic needs to be cleaned up. And he point blank said it was gone. And so he
so,
obviously was not there for that.
so where Ryan's locating that, nobody's walking back there because you have to walk across the beams to get back there. And you're
Hmm.
walking over top the ceiling of the laundry room and the hallway because it meets right there to the back of the bedroom,
Hmm.
upstairs master. So, um, like I was so tempted to take a guy over there and just clean it out myself the other day because I was so
No,
irritated and I was like, I know I can't do that, but
no,
I
you
was
can't do
so
that because
irritated with him because he would like snapped at me and I was like, he's like, well, can you even get to where that's at? I said, yeah, but you got to walk the beams to get over there. I said, you got to clear all of that out because they nested in it. And once it's gone, it will smell better, but you got
yeah,
to
but you
rip it
can't
all
do that
out.
because God forbid you fall through the roof or something. Like you can't send someone; it's the seller's responsibility.
Oh, I have people that work for us. I send medics all the time. I wouldn't send somebody that wouldn't do anything, but like in that manner, like I felt like a buyer, like I so badly wanted to just be like, And the inspector's like, it just needs to be removed. And Craig's mad at the inspector. And I don't think he realizes that it's Ryan, which is fine. Like, I get it. But
Yeah, it's
it's
I like Craig, but
frustrating.
he expects everything to go his way.
Yeah, it's crazy. I couldn't even.
And I think he was a little embarrassed that his sellers weren't completely. I think he thought, oh, I know these people. This is going to be a slam dunk, and he didn't do his due diligence because he knows that house he should have never marketed it as VA unless he was going to go in and tell them to fix everything beforehand. So the whole thing is just weird.
So when I told him it was a VA loan, and he said to me, just make me an offer, and I'll see what I can do. He's like, but I'm 100% sure that it will pass a VA loan.
Uh-huh.
And ever since he said that to me and we did the inspection, he went ghost on me for a couple of weeks and started talking to you because he knew he couldn't say anything to me
Yeah.
because he knew that I was going to be like, oh, I thought it could pass a VA loan, you know? So,
Yeah, I think he didn't do his homework as the listing agent, and now he's paying for it, and it's causing a headache for all of us. But it's a good learning experience for you because now when you walk a house, whether or not in MLS it's listed as it can go VA, you're going to know, okay, that broken window, you're going to know all the things to bring to their attention before you even make the offer. I don't want to wait and ask for it once the inspector does it. If I know what type of loan I'm using and I know there's going to be an issue, I start that conversation in the very beginning because then it sets the seller up for what's realistic. But we will
yeah.
continue to work through it. So let's see. It is 107, and I obviously am not Matt, still Caitlin. If you were on earlier with our accountability call that Angel usually does, I'm trying to get my screen here to cooperate. Is it just you ladies and Garrett?
I think so.
Okay. Well, so that gives us more freedom to, dive in and discuss things you want to talk about. The purpose of today's call is phone call training 102. And I know a lot of times Matt will end up diving into different topics with you all too. So if you go back and look at past recordings, sometimes they're sorry, I'm getting all kinds of notifications. Sometimes they are pretty topic specific, but I do want to make sure we're hitting our initial reminders for the purpose of the call. Excuse me. Which is a lot of what we do is getting to know people on the phone. We don't know them from Adam, and turning that initial conversation when Zillow connects us into, a viable lead. Luckily, they already are calling because they're interested in real estate, and it's up to us to let them know that we can be a good resource for them. We're not just going to open the door and say bye. Our purpose is to build a rapport with them. So whether you have talked to them a couple times or it's a real-time touring lead that comes in or a live call, if you're getting live calls yet, the goal really is to introduce yourself, say, hey, I see you're looking at this address. When would you like to see it? Scheduling that initial appointment is our first goal. And then beyond getting that appointment scheduled, if they are chatty, then we move into the reason for why are they moving? What's their motivation? Where are they wanting to go? And if you're lucky, if you're still on the phone with them, getting to know them, then it's, hey, have you talked to a lender yet? It can be a simple conversation starter. It doesn't have to be I need to know if you're pre-approved. It's, hey, have you talked to a lender yet? Oh no, I haven't had the chance. And you'll jump in with, okay, well, that's one of our first steps, because not only will that tell us what your budget is, it'll outline what your loan parameters are, so I can pinpoint houses that are going to meet your loan types to make sure that when we're looking at properties, we're looking at ones that aren't going to be a waste of your time. So really getting to know what their timeline is going to help you figure out how you're moving into that. So even if they say, well, I'm just getting started, you may say something like, well, what has you thinking about making a move? And then they could say, well, I'm getting engaged, my job is changing. And you realize, okay, they're not just starting to think about it. They're going to be married next year and they want a home before the wedding, or whatever it might be. It helps them and you create clear milestones to inform them of what they need to do. So if they're thinking about, okay, well, the wedding's in December and we want a house before then, maybe the goal is we need to start getting you pre-approved into the summer, beginning of fall, then we're going to be house hunting. Now, if you want to start the process sooner, we certainly can. Your first step will be to go ahead and get that pre-approval. I'll have one of my lenders reach out to you. I work with Eric a lot. He's great. And then they're going to tell us, what our parameters are so we can start your house hunt. You want to get them comfortable with the why of what you're telling them, not just, oh, you have to be pre-approved before we can look at any houses. And now keep in mind, for that first appointment, I always tell you guys to treat it like a blind date. We want to at least meet them one time. And then, because not everyone's going to share a lot of information on those first initial phone calls or texts, but we make that initial appointment, we go to the showing, and then we use that as an opportunity to get to know them better. Questions, whether you're on the phone and you're really having a good rapport, or you're in those first showings, questions you're going to want to ask can be clarifying their timeline, like I mentioned, the reason for why they're moving, why now. Maybe they're getting married and they're going to have stepkids and they need more bedrooms. So whatever you can get to know about their why is going to help you when you're looking at houses. Because if they really need 4 bedrooms, it's going to make sense if, their family is expanding or whatever it is. Or they may not have even thought that through. You could say, well, how many rooms do you need? And they'd say, well, I really want 3, but we can make 2 work. But then if they tell you, there's going to be 6 people under one roof, you realize that there's no way 2 is going to work, or you realize their budget is nowhere in line with what their actual needs are going to be, because you can help navigate that to help them have the conversations with the lender, do what they need to do, because nobody wants to spend 3 or 4 months looking for a unicorn when it just doesn't exist. I don't want to show them houses if I know that they really need a 3-2, but the only thing out there in their budget are 2 2s. We're going to wait and narrow it down, only look for homes with bonus rooms. Look at homes that have been on the market longer. So getting to know what their true needs are will help you know how to best use your time and theirs. And I always like to put it that way, is I don't want to waste your time looking at houses that aren't going to work, because they do get excited and they just want to go see a house. You could say something like, tell me a little bit about your current setup. When you're talking about finances, you could say, do you need to sell before you can buy? Because a lot of times they get excited about looking for the new house, even though they're nowhere near that step yet. So that opens up, we were talking about this earlier in the call. If they own a home right now, that alone is a good question in those initial conversations is, do you own your own home now? And if they say yes, like, okay, great. Are you going to have to sell in order to buy? Or are you hoping to hold on to that house? And it may be that they are planning on renting it out, or they plan on taking their time moving, that they think they have the financial flexibility, that they don't have to be in a rush to sell. And that's where you can tell them, let me get you in touch with a lender so they can figure out what your best loan options are, and then we'll know how we need to move forward. Because they may realize, oh crap, the only way we can buy is if we go ahead and sell first. So that tells us we're going to be coordinating the listing and the purchase, and then you help them navigate that. But if they have if their pre-approval is contingent on a sale, but they haven't started working on selling that home, that's a big issue. So that's why you want to open up the conversation to get to know them better. And so you can ask things without, it's not a interrogation. You want to, basically, you're consulting them, right? You want to ask questions without being pushy. What price range are you hoping to stay within? I may say, okay, great. You got pre-approved. What's your max budget? And they may say, well, I really want to be at $2,200 a month. Or they may say, I really want to spend under $225,000 total. And I want to know, okay, great. Do you know what your highest pre-approval budget is? And have you talked to the lender about what that monthly payment looks like compared to that $225,000? You want to ask them, you want to get to know them and their personality and, build a rapport. But it truly is, the point of those phone calls is to see how we can help them best. So when you navigate the call with that in mind, based on their feedback, you're going to know in what direction we need to take the conversation to prepare them to get ready for the next steps. When I'm talking to a potential buyer about what they're looking for in a home, so we've already gotten our pre-approval conversations out of the way. We know what our budget is. My questions may look like, okay, what are your non-negotiables? Because they might have told me that they want a 4-2 with a pool, fenced in, and not older than 1999. But it may turn out that if you found a home with enough room for a pool and a big enough yard and at a lower price point, that they could afford to put in a pool on their own. If it's the location they want, maybe the location's more important to them than the pool. So those are questions you can ask them as you're starting those showings, but then if you're following up with them too. So say you might have gone on a couple showings and they're just not really in love with any of those properties, you can use those as examples or kind of a starting point as to, so we saw a couple properties and you just don't really seem happy about them. What about those homes didn't you like? Or what's holding you back? I like to ask them that, is what's holding you back in making this decision now? Because you told me you wanted to be in a house by the end of the year. And then when you're having those conversations and you're guiding them through the process, that's going to be creating that value that you offer them. So when it comes time to signing the buyer broker agreement, or you just had this great conversation with them, you've gotten to know them on the phone, you've scheduled the appointment, it's real easy to say, okay, great, our next steps are, you're going to get an email for a touring agreement. I'll need you to sign that, and then I'll meet you at the property tomorrow at 2. You always want to let them know what to expect next and reiterate what you've already discussed. And when I have those initial incoming real-time touring or Zillow live calls and you schedule that appointment, you want to follow up with a text. So it's in black and white. You're confirming that appointment. If they don't respond, I like to give them another call. And then if they still don't respond, confirming the appointment, send another text, give them another call, and say, it's okay to be firm. Please confirm our appointment at this time. If I do not receive confirmation, we will have to reschedule. And then if they don't respond, you know that your afternoon's wide open and you can go pursue other leads and touch base with them again about rescheduling, because there's nothing worse than sitting at a house all afternoon and they're leaving you on red, because sometimes they just don't sometimes people schedule, they get busy, whatever it is, they won't follow up. But you need to tell them, hey, I'm not showing up if you're not, going to confirm. And usually when you put that in a text, it makes it easier for them to be able to say, yes, I'll be there. No, I have to cancel. Because people aren't always good with having that having that conversation verbally on the phone. So my reminders for you are, try to get the appointment. You discuss with them as much as you can, as they're willing to talk initially, so you can start building that rapport. And then you let them know what to expect next. Hey, you're going to get the email with the touring agreement. Please do sign that electronically. If they don't sign and you're one day out, or it's later that afternoon, you can shoot them a text. I haven't received your electronically signed touring agreement. Would you like me to resend it? You always make sure you have printed paper copies with you, but it's a lot easier to get it done ahead of time. And you can even say that they don't respond when you ask about resending it. Then you can say, I'll have a printed copy with me in case you prefer not to electronically sign, something to let them, remind them that, hey, this is important. And those conversations have gotten easier, because whether they're working with you or any other realtor, they're going to have to sign something to open the door. And it's basically that initial, as realtors, we have to document who we show homes to. So before we open any doors, I need you to sign. And if they simply won't, then you simply don't open the door. So it's really usually not that big of a deal, because they understand, like, okay, I have to do this. And then you can let them know too, if they have questions or seem hesitant because they're new to the process. The Zillow touring agreement is just that. It's temporary. It's a 7-day. It's dated for a week. It's good for 7 days. And it truly is just allowing you to open homes for them. And that's where you say, once we'll see this house, we'll get a feel for what your plan is. I would like to talk to you about what your financing goals are and what your timeline is. And then once you're ready and you've decided that you're ready to move forward, we'll sign a buyer broker agreement acknowledging that I am serving as your realtor. Let's see. It's already 1:24. What questions do you guys have for me? Are you having any hiccups or getting stuck at any phases of those initial conversations? You guys have all mastered your mock calls and you're all killing it. Eric, you might, I didn't realize you hopped on. Thank you for joining us. I have not participated in one of Matt's phone call 102 meetings, so I may be, a little off topic here. What's on your mind that I haven't covered so far?
I mean, you're doing a great job, Kaylin. What are you talking about? No, I mean we have a little different problems. I mean, in terms of we do get a lot of leads that already have a realtor and they're trying to waste our time. So, um, there's ways of, asking conversation or asking questions to have a conversation around that, to where you're not truly interrogating them to say, hey, like, do you have a realtor? Um, because most people know a realtor. It's just whether they're going to use them or not, or
Mhm.
sometimes they are truly using that realtor and they're trying to waste your time and showing those houses. And we get a lot of, unfortunately, hot topic this week and this over the weekend was that they had agents that were telling their clients to go click on Zillow, go see those houses, and then call me when you like one. Um,
Lazy.
yeah, which at the end of the day, like, it's conversations. I'm just happy to have a conversation and get in front of somebody that I've never met before, so that I can earn their business. But I would just encourage you guys. I mean, Matt stresses it, like, hey, the big question of how long have you been looking, and did you
Mhm.
go see a house with a realtor? Did they open it up, or have you just been going to open houses? Just so we can probe those questions, and they're going to tell you, oh, well, I saw it with a realtor. Well, that's a red flag, right? So, okay, great. Well, is that somebody you know, or you have friendship with, or is that a family member? Oh no, it's a friend, or it's yeah, or yeah, it is a family member. Okay, great. Well, why didn't they show you the houses today, or why didn't they show you this house that you're calling me for? So, I just encourage you guys just to try to weed out those red flags in a sense beforehand, because if they can't sign your rep agreement and they're not going to, or they have kickbacks on it, then that's where the hard takeaways come in. So
Mhm.
that's just our hot topic, but I think you touched on some other great points.
Yeah, and what I've always asked in the past, even before years ago when we didn't have to do the buyer broker agreements, I wanted to know if they were just, wasting my time, and if they planned on working with someone else. So the question of how long have you been looking, um, usually tells you, ooh, they've been serious about this. They've been looking at houses. Of course, they're working with a realtor. And you can, if they say, well, we started looking about a month ago, we've toured a couple houses, I would say, oh, well, were you having problems with the realtor you're working with? And if they say, well, we didn't really like her, she didn't return our calls, so you could say, okay, great. If you're wanting to move, if you're wanting to move forward with someone else, I'm more than happy to help. Um, we'll have you sign we'll have you sign that agreement. And by the way, it would be good to go ahead and email that realtor canceling, and it can be simple. Just say, hey, I'm canceling our buyer broker agreement. And they'll appreciate your help and your guidance on that. If they give you the impression that they just really want to see the house, but their sister's going to write the contract, I have flat out said, okay, great, you need to call that realtor then. I'll tell them, well, you don't need to call the realtors on Zillow or online. You need to directly call your realtor. And if they're not able to help you, then by all means get back with me and I'm more than happy to take over. That way they realize, like, oh, we can't just waste these people's time. But I have definitely said that more than once of, okay, great. If you're not looking for someone else, go ahead and call that realtor. If they're unable to help you or you're not happy with that, give me a call back and I'm more than happy to take over, is how I like to phrase that. What other hot topics or pain points have you guys come across, or questions you've gotten on phone calls?
Are you the listing agent? It's always a hot topic.
Ooh, I'd say
Yeah.
yeah, I say I'm not the listing agent. I'm a buyer's agent. Zillow connects you to buyer's agents because I want to represent you. The listing agent represents the seller. So that way you have someone representing your own interests, whether it's this property or another property, I can help you with all of them. How do you handle that question, Eric?
I tell them I'm the exclusive buying agent for this listing. So I always say, hey, that's a great question, but I'm the exclusive buying agent for this listing. And I have a direct communication with the seller to ensure that we can get you into this house and get any information over to you.
That's
Because
great.
because again, the seller has the interest, or the listing agent has the fiduciary duty and the interest of the seller and no one else. So that's why I've been tasked with being the exclusive buying agent for this listing.
I like it. I like to tell them like that it's not just this home. You called about this home, but whether it's you're making that appointment or you're, especially they call in on one, they're calling or sending a real-time touring request for one showing. Before I wrap up, I always ask them, are there any other addresses you're interested in? Because I'm more than happy to take a look, because we can go ahead and see those tomorrow afternoon as well. I want them to know that I'm not just for this one listing, that I can help them and be their realtor for anything.
Yeah, good point. I think just on what I say there too is, I guess I do say exclusive buying agent for this listing and many others. So is there any other properties that you would like to see outside of this? Because I can set that up as well.
And two, the guys talk about this a lot too. When I'm communicating with my buyer about a property, I rarely mention the listing agent. Once we're under contract, if the listing agent is really being a pill and causing issues, I may want the buyer to know that the listing agent, said this or something. But 9 times out of 10, I'm referring to the seller. Hey, do you know the age of the roof? Well, I've been looking into it. I reached out to the seller. As soon as they get back to me, I'll let you know. Or if they have questions about the HOA or questions about the pool pump, whatever it may be, it's always, I'll get with the seller and I'll get back to you. That way it's not creating confusion in their mind that, oh, well, I should just talk to the listing agent. No, you shouldn't, because the listing agent is not working for you.
Absolutely.
Daniel.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's a good one. I fumbled like maybe 2 people because they had like very specific questions like that. But luckily they're over text. But still they kind of that's just good to keep in the back pocket about getting with the sellers and get back to them. I think would have kind of really helped me in those situations.
Awesome. I love that.
Well, and I always ask the question too, well, what do you know about being represented by a seller, by a listing agent on both sides, right? So that's maybe not on the first call, but hey, I kind of bring it up. Hey, I know you asked, like, if I was a listing agent before, what do you know about representation? And what have you bought a house before, or have you been represented on both sides of buying a house if they have bought a house before? I just like to go in depth on that, just kind of know what they're thinking, because a lot of people think that if they use the selling agent on both sides, they get a deal. Well, that's never the case typically. And if anything, they're put at risk because their fiduciary duty is first to the seller. And so sometimes they just don't know the process, and you try to just encourage that conversation a little bit more. Again, I wouldn't probably do that necessarily on the front end. I mean, you can, if they're really adamant, then, if they're saying, no, I want to talk to the listing agent, then I would flat out tell them, like, well, why do you want to use the listing agent? I'm just curious. Well, because, whatever that reason is, but hey,
We're going to get a better deal.
Yeah, well, that's the case, right? Like, but ultimately, here's the reality. They've already signed a commission, and 9 times out of 10, they're in Florida. I know you guys usually have listing agreements with the full amount, or maybe they don't. But the encouragement is like they're already signing what their commission is typically going to be sometimes, and that's set in stone, and it's not going to probably change because the listing agent is going to still get paid the same. So, again, they're not looking out for you and your best interest. They're just not.
Yeah, and usually, I mean, rarely you get much pushback on that, and you usually don't have to go that in depth, but that is good to keep in mind that, if someone is just, well, I want to know the real facts about the home, or I want the seller's opinion on the home. I only want to talk to the listing agent because it'll save me money, whatever it is. You can remind them that my responsibility will be to you. So whether this house is a wonderful deal or there's red flags, I'm going to bring that to your attention versus the listing agent is working on behalf of the seller. And it would be very transactional. You can also remind them too that as your realtor, I'm going to get you seller property disclosures. I'm going to represent you through the inspection process and help you with those negotiations. I've really never gotten that far into the conversation. Typically, when you point out that, ooh, well, the listing agent is representing the seller's best interest, I want to represent your best interest. I serve as buyer's agent, whether it's this house or another house you end up being interested in. I'm here to help. Usually don't get too much pushback on that, but that's good to tuck away for when it happens. Because I say it's not common, and now you guys will all come across it.
Well, and
the way it works.
And I would definitely practice that conversation, because I feel like if you stumble that question, you kind of lose credibility in a sense. And it's really easy to do if they're asking you a question and you look like you're trying to skirt around the question. And so I've been asked so many times, and it does come up. It's going to happen, not if, it's when. And so I always have that spiel or whatever you want to call it. It's there in my tool bag to say, hey, like, okay, great. That's a great question. I'm an exclusive buyer agent for this listing, and I have a direct communication with the seller for anything and everything about this house, as well as several others. So is there a question you have about that? So it needs to be very direct and kind of rehearsed, because you don't want to fumble that.
That's a good point. Do you guys have any other questions or talking points? If you come across someone who is, whether they say they're just getting started, or maybe they've looked at a lot of houses, whatever it may be, once you get to the showing phase of it and they start having questions about the property, if you're in the showing and you're stumbling through trying to come up or look in MLS, it can hurt your credibility with that as well, especially when you're trying to build the rapport with them. So keep in mind, you'll hear me say it on my Wednesday calls, I always recommend talking to the listing agent before you go to any properties. If you really think they're interested in the home, do a little bit of homework ahead of time. Find out the age of the roof, find out the age of the AC, the hot water heater. Do your best to get them those answers. That way, when they do ask you, you can confidently give them the information. Because, we are positioning ourselves as the go-to between them and the seller. So it helps if you can provide them, valuable feedback and content when you're in the showings. But if you don't know the answer, you can say, I'll get with the seller and I'll get back with you. I'll also, if it's someone that you're looking at multiple homes and in one day, and I might not have been able to touch base with every listing agent, I'll start the walkthrough with them, and then I'll say, I'm going to take a look at the AC. Or when we get outside, let's take a minute to look at the AC together. And I'll point out the age of it on the label, if it's older or newer or whatever it is. That way they can see that, oh, wow, my realtor is really making sure that, this house is going to be a good fit for me, not just, hey, do you like it? Do you want to make an offer? With your phone calls and your initial appointments and all of those conversations, make sure you're keeping Follow Up Boss updated because it will help you exponentially when you are doing follow-up calls. You may have someone who they may not be ready to buy for another year, so you put them in Nurture and Follow Up Boss and you put notes about what you've learned about them. So when you call them back in a couple months to touch base, you're going to be able to have that information handy so you can remember that they want a fenced in backyard for their dog because they're a dog lover and that they have kids or whatever it might be. All of that information, anything you learn about them, put it in your notes and Follow Up Boss because over time that will be very, very beneficial. And to feedback on houses. If they say they don't like this area because too much traffic or they don't want this school zone, put, good notes, bad notes, put it in there because it's going to help you meet their needs better. So before the call, I was thinking, okay, what are my takeaways for you guys? I really like to find out, what their immediate need is. They're wanting to schedule an appointment, they're wanting more information, they need to talk to a lender, and then I want to let them know what to expect. So you prepare them for what to expect. Okay, I'm going to schedule the appointment. I'll text you to confirm. I'm going to email you the touring agreement that needs to be signed. And I'll need you to sign that as soon as you can, and then we'll be able to meet at our showing tomorrow. But intro, find out what their immediate needs are, let them know what to expect, and then guide them on how to move forward. That way they don't feel like they're in the dark. There's a lot of in time you'll feel like, okay, this is kind of rinse and repeat, but you'll want to remember that most of these people you're talking to, this is the first time they've started the home buying process, or it's been 15 years since they've bought a home. So it's not something that they're used to doing every day. So there's going to be a level of uncertainty. And if you can create that comfort level for them and help them feel like they're supported and let them know what to expect through the process, it'll go a lot smoother. Eric, what are your thoughts? What else do you have for us? Did Eric hop off? He might have had a call. Do you guys have any other questions? We can chat, whether it's about, answering calls or if it's a specific problem that's popped up, whatever it might be.
I'm good.
All right. Okay, well, if you guys think of something throughout the week, just let me know. I hope to see you all on Wednesday. And yeah, just keep your Follow Up Boss updated and let us know if we can help with anything.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Caitlin. I think I sent you a message.
Thank you.
Did you get that?
Let me check. You text me?
Yeah.
Yes, I got it as soon as I was walking into this. That's super exciting. Do you want to stay on and chat for a minute?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, awesome. Well, you guys, if you want to hear about the next steps, Justice is getting ready to write an offer. Feel free to stay on and listen in, or you're welcome to head out, whatever works for you.
I gotta go. I got a showing, but good luck, Justice, and congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good luck with your showing, Dee.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, so Stacy wants to write an offer. Okay,
Yes,
so
correct.
next steps are, please remind me, have you written offers before? How brand new are you?
I have not. This will be my first offer.
Okay, So what I would like to do is I have a Google form that I'll have you fill out that basically will help both of us get organized. It'll be questions specific to the deal, specific to the property. And then you and I can schedule a Google Meet and we can go through and write it together. If you are comfortable with working in DocuSign, you can always start your drafts. I'm going to
Okay.
share my screen. You can always start your drafts and then email them to me so we can handle it, whatever comfort level you like. Were you let me see. Were you on the Wednesday meeting or the Friday meeting last week? I don't remember who was on.
I was, yeah.
Okay. So in Agent Resources, we have the Working with Buyers folder. So there's a folder in here, How to Offers and Contracts. This is going to be helpful for you if you don't already know the answers to these, then you want to go back to Stacy and say, okay, how much of a deposit do you want to make? Typical escrow deposits are about 1% of the purchase price. If you
Okay.
don't know what her down payment's going to be, that's important. Do you have the
Okay.
pre-approval?
I don't have the actual pre-approval. She said that she did get it through the Zillow home loans, and then she
Okay.
did tell me that she wants to put 100,000 down.
Okay. So that's helpful. So she's
Yeah.
probably putting way more down. What's the price point on the house?
The price point is 290 and she wants to offer 260.
Okay. How long has it been on the market?
Only 13 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you talked to the listing agent?
Briefly, just at the house, I asked him a couple questions about the furnishing and what was going to be offered with it, but I really didn't ask any more questions.
Okay. Well, my first thing would be I would call him. I would say, "Hey, I showed your house whenever, a couple days ago, and my buyer wants to make an offer. She wants to offer 260. Please let me know what your seller would think of that. She is well qualified. She's going to put a large down payment, so she's ready to go. So sometimes it's not just about purchase price, it's how confident the seller is in that the buyer's qualified.
Yes,
Um,
correct. Yeah.
but when it's a pretty substantial difference from your initial offer price to the listing price or asking price, I'll
Yeah.
make a verbal offer first. And that way that listing agent may just laugh and say, oh, there's no way, he's only been on the market 2 weeks. There's no way the seller will do that. But
Okay.
you're at least starting a conversation because you can say, okay, well, can you tell me what his counter would be?
Yeah.
Or he may say, well, write it up and put it in writing. But regardless, then you can take that back to Stacy and say, okay, I talked to the seller. They're not going to go for 260. You said 260, 230.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to, whatever we bring, they wouldn't give me a counter. So I think whatever we bring them next, we need to go ahead and put it in writing because I want them to know we're serious. But at least that way you're starting the conversation. And then your buyer feels like her needs are being met because you did try. You literally did offer that low amount.
Mhm.
But so when someone comes in and says, oh, I want to start, $50,000 less or $30,000 less, unless it's been on the market for months and months, I'll say, this house just hit the market or it's only been on the market X amount of days. I don't anticipate the seller being willing to do that because comps in the area are all within, I usually look at what's for sale in the neighborhood and I look at your sales.
Mhm.
Because you tell them like properties in this neighborhood usually sell for within 1% of the asking price. When you
Yeah.
run comp, you can get that percentage. So you can provide those details to your buyer. But yeah, so with
I guess
her
the only
being,
thing going for this is that we did have a part of the conversation about it's definitely hearsay, but the neighborhood is just so well communicated. They talk to each other. Apparently the owner, the gentleman who was going to list it, he wanted to list it, sell it, and get out of it really quick. And I guess
Mhm.
he told the neighbors that he wanted to sell it for 250, but then when he hired an
Okay.
agent, the agent made him list it for 290. So again, this is all hearsay, but
Oh,
so her coming at me saying, doing it above what he initially wanted to list it at. So
yeah. Yeah. So knowing that, and every deal is going to be different. Every deal will have its little nuances or
Mm.
quirks, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, you probably should go ahead and put it in writing. I would call the listing agent though and ask them, if you haven't already, ask them if they have any other offers.
Okay.
Since and then yeah, you can go ahead and put it in writing. Or
Yeah. Okay.
you could verbally say, hey, do you have any other offers? My buyer is really interested. She wants to offer 260, and then get his feedback. And then if he's like, I don't know, you could still put it in writing at 260, because then he has to present it to a seller.
Correct. Yeah.
But
Okay.
and then reiterate it. That's really, my buyer's ready to go. They have a big old down payment. They're well qualified, but this is what she thinks it's worth.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that would be my next step, is then calling the listing agent right now and kind of going through that with him, and then hearing his reaction, and then going through it with putting it in writing.
And you want to get the pre-approval letter, and ideally you don't want a pre-approval that's priced. So she may be pre-approved up to 300,000, but if you're going to offer, say, 260, you want the pre-approval letter to say 260. Otherwise the seller's going to say, oh, well, she can afford more, I'm going to counter.
Correct. Okay. And then how I would do that by contacting the lender that she's already working with.
Yep. I would have her send you the pre-approval she already has. What's her name? Cindy?
Stacy Keller.
Let's see. I feel like okay, let's see. She's already with ZHL.
She said that she was, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would ask her who she's working with. And if she already has a pre-approval, just tell her to email it to you, because then it's going to have the contact information on it. That's the simplest. But yeah, so you'll want to touch base with the lender, because yeah, if you end up writing an offer for 260, you want the pre-approval to match. And then talk to the listing agent, get that feedback. Then in here, there's steps and lists and all the things. But have you ever done anything in DocuSign?
No, I have not. I mean, I started an initial contract, but it fell through, so I never went through with it.
Okay. So there's also in agent resources, let me back out. We were in the working with buyers. In the training and tutorials, there's videos on how to get into DocuSign and pull in documents. But I'm more than happy, if you get your questions answered, we can do a Google Meet later this evening, or we could do one in the morning and go through it together, whatever works for you.
Okay.
But this has, let me think.
Is your screen still sharing? I don't know if it's frozen.
Oh, I thought it was. That's not helpful. Let me try again. Entire screen. Okay, sorry about that.
You're fine.
So in agent resources, there's training and tutorials. And then I need to separate these, but it's a command and DocuSign folder. Writing docs. There's links to how you do it. You actually can go straight to DocuSign. You do not have to go through command. Then when you're getting ready to send something for signature, there's tutorials on that.
Okay.
Then I was trying to find. Okay, this what to know before you write the contract. It gives you a list of the important things you're going to need to know, because it helps you in negotiations and whatnot. And then it gives you kind of talking points to discuss it with your buyer if they have questions about it. The escrow deposit, you'll want them to know that it's typically due within 3 days of it fully being signed. She sounds like she has plenty of cash, but when you're working with buyers who are on a very strict budget, sometimes they don't realize that, or they don't communicate that their escrow deposit's coming out of their next paycheck, and that's not going to hit the bank for another 2 weeks. So you
Okay.
want them, you talk through what to expect with them. Escrow deposits due once you go under contract. It's refundable if you cancel during inspection period or because you can't get financing. Otherwise, if you cancel, it's non-refundable. So we want to make sure that you want to make sure that they're serious, right? You talk to them about the down payment. If they have a lot of questions, I always direct them back to the lender. You tell them that a typical closing is 30 days, but if they, for some reason, want longer, let you know, because you can try to negotiate it. When I talk to the listing agent, I like to ask what the seller's needs are, because sometimes if they're wanting, like in this instance, he could say, well, he's really hoping for a really quick sale. You could say, okay,
Mhm.
we're going to say honor before 30 days and offer less because we're willing to move quickly. Or you could even go to the lender and say, hey, do you think we could close in 3 weeks? Is the buyer fully underwritten? If they get the initial buyer pre-approval done, and through underwriting, the person's financials through underwriting, and it's just
Mhm.
the house, sometimes they can close in 3 weeks. So sometimes,
Okay.
the more you know about the seller, like you found out from the neighbor, they want to close quick. So it helps you in structuring that offer. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
And the loan type's important because of course we want to make sure the house is in good enough condition to be financed. So if it's FHA, there's FHA riders and addendums, that sort of thing. But again, once we get more into the details, I can help you through that.
Okay.
But these are going to help you in conversations with your buyer. You
Okay.
tell them that, we shoot for a 10-day inspection period. And then when it's talking about contingencies, that's basically, is there pre-approval contingent on anything like the seller providing closing costs or the buyer selling a home first? Back out. In agent resources, in the working with buyers folder, I have this Fortify buyer guide, which is helpful for people who are new to the home buying process, but also helpful for our new agents to have a go-to guide on the talking points and how to prepare, how to better discuss and be prepared for all the elements of it. So I would take a look at this too. This is helpful.
Okay. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, trying to follow through with the drive as you do it too, because I learned the best way doing it as of
Awesome.
right there in the moment.
Okay. So get your pre-approval letter, talk to the listing agent, and then again, we can hop on later this afternoon together or just go from there. Let me know what you think.
Okay, yeah, depending on the information that I get back, I'll let you know.
Okay. You can log in directly to DocuSign with your KW command info. So it's the same login. That way you bypass having to create the opportunity and go through the command stuff.
Yeah.
Admin, once you're under contract, admin will take care of all of that for you. It does make you verify periodically.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like I'm still in my DocuSign and it has I do have a current room open that I had from my last contract that I just need to close out, but
Yeah, so I would keep in mind, I recommend a new room per address, not per person, because if you end up writing multiple offers for one buyer, it can get messy quick if the same docs, property address are in the same folder. So I would
I
create
see.
Um, so you log into DocuSign, it'll look like this. You go up to the profile, switch to rooms, it'll catch up. And then rooms again. And then new. So I would do a new one for each address, but your buyer contact info should autofill when it comes time to pulling in that contact since you already put them in DocuSign. You may have to read under the contact, I don't remember.
Okay.
I recommend, I usually do the buyer's name and the address, but that way it's a room per address so you don't get messed up with writers with different addresses or whatever it might be.
I see, getting them mixed up. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So just keep me posted, and that's exciting.
I will. I will keep you posted. Yeah, I'm gonna give them a call right now and hopefully, yeah, get some things going within the today.
All right. Well, congrats. Let me know when you need me.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.